Hey, welcome back to day 36 of Project Me. Been a few days since the last video, and I rewatched it the day after, and again about 25 minutes ago, and I realized that I didn't actually address the root problem of people pleasing, for me at least. Uh, we addressed, we talked about the symptom, which in my case manifests as speaking really quickly in social situations when I'm insecure because I feel like I've got less value in the room than other people might, or because I want people to like me, whatever it might be. So I talked about for me, how to mitigate that speaking really quickly, but I didn't actually address the actual root of the problem, the people pleasing aspect. So hopefully I can dive in a little bit to that because over the last 2 days I've thought a lot about it, and so I've got some thoughts, but unfortunately it's one of those things where I think it raises more questions than answers. And of course I'm not in any way qualified to give answers, but this is just my experience and how I plan on wrestling or grappling with this issue. But anyways, I forgot to do it last time, but we're going to do it today. Just real quick, rapid fire gratitude at the beginning. First of all, grateful to a group of friends of mine. There's about four of them. We call them the flat whites because they're all whites. They all can't handle spicy food, and of course they all like coffee. So we call them the flat whites. Yesterday they hosted a little margarita night for the big friend group, so we all went over and had a good time. Really enjoyed it. So thankful to them for hosting that. Second of all, grateful to, I'll call her C. She's a really cool person. I met her a while ago actually, and I met her again yesterday at the mocktail night, cocktail party, whatever it was. Met her again yesterday. Had a really good chat with her. We're both really big into English literature. Me because it's a hobby of mine to read, and her because she takes English literature at university, so that checks out, right? But I had a really great chat, so really thankful that I came across her again. Looking forward to the next time we meet because we'll talk about T.S. Eliot, a great American poet. And thirdly, I am grateful for my flatmate. We'll call it A. She went out to the market with me this morning. That was really cool. That was fun. Had a good time with her. We just bought like capsicums and red peppers, some onions, things like that, you know. But anyways, moving on. Yeah, I've thought about this, and I've written down some notes over the last few days about what I think about how to address it, and because what I did talk about was very much like a band-aid solution, right? I speak quickly, so how do I try and not speak quickly? But we didn't talk about addressing the root problem, because if you don't address the root problem, it's just going to keep recurring. So you can put on as many band-aids as you want, but it's not actually going to do anything in the long run, right? And I thought about this, and I people please because I want people to like me. I don't know if they do already, and I don't know if they will like me. So I try to put my best foot forward. And when I came to that realization, I thought a little bit more, and I was like, okay, well, it makes me think that it's such a tragedy of humanity that we will never get to experience or feel all the love that is felt for us by the people around us. Like that to me is such a tragedy, because to make it all about me, in my case, it's a case of again, I don't know if they like me, so I'm going to act a different way than I might otherwise. And so it's like a ripple effect. Sorry, cause and effect. You know, yeah, it's quite. I don't want to over articulate the point because I think it's pretty clear, but I think that's really quite sad in a way, for multiple reasons, not solely because of people pleasing, but it's just a very sad thing. I think everyone is so worthy of love, and I think people would be. I think the world, well, obviously, the world would be a far better place if people were loved. I mean, how many people that act maybe out of character or badly or immorally, how many people do you think would still do that if they knew, fundamentally in their heart that they were loved and they didn't have to do anything to have to act differently to get that love? So anyways, that food for thought, bit of a side tangent. But then I started thinking about, well, how do you go about changing yourself as a person? Like, when do people change? And I sat here, I kid you not, for like 45 minutes thinking about this, reflecting on my own life and from what I know about other people. And I came up with 4 different ideas of when this might happen, and by no means an exhaustive list. But first of all, when we've learned enough that we want to change. Secondly, when we've seen enough that we're inspired to change. Thirdly, when we've received enough love that that we're able to change. And fourthly, when we've been hurt enough that we need to change. Those are my 4 ideas of when we as people change ourselves. And people pleasing, I think, it's for me, it's not at the point where I've been hurt enough that I need to change, but I've been hurt enough to recognize that something needs to happen. But I haven't hit that ground level low, the lowest you can possibly be, that you absolutely need to change, or else, God forbid, I'm at that point where I think I've seen enough of what other people have or can do, and I've learned enough from just seeing things that I want to, and I feel inspired to change because I'm not happy with the way things are. So it's probably a combination as well of all these different factors that lead to change. But so to address people pleasing as a whole, and this is something I've thought a lot about. I think that the logical antithesis to the logical solution to people pleasing is knowing your value, and that can take on so many different meanings. On the one hand, talk about greatness being delusional. Knowing your value, you might have to be a little bit delusional. You have to rely on the narcissistic part of you, maybe. We're all a bit narcissistic. But how much do you buy into your narcissism to recognize your value? And I don't know. I feel like I might quite struggle with that. For example, I I try really, really, really hard to suppress any sort of arrogance or narcissistic tendencies in me, to the point, actually, that I refuse to have birthday parties. Because it just seems like an absolute waste. It's just a celebration of me, and what's to celebrate? I'm not anything particularly special. I mean, take that as you will. Yes and no in a lot of ways for that question, but yeah. So for example, I've got my 21st birthday coming up in about slightly less than 2 months, and my friends are like, "Oh, throw a party." I've never thrown a party in my life. And I don't know if I want to start now. I mean, the narcissistic part of me is like, yes, go celebrate yourself, have a great time. It's all about you. But the rational part of me is like, absolutely not. Don't. And so it's, for me, the struggle is finding a way to recognize my value without being narcissistic about it, without being arrogant about it. And there's a fine line. It's a line, to be sure, that can be found. You can rely on the narcissism without being arrogant, I think, but I don't know whereabouts to find that line. And on the other hand, and maybe it's the same thing, it's just knowing who you are, because when you know you, why change to something that isn't you, right? So when you know who you are, why would you change something that isn't you for people pleasing, to please someone else, right? That's my point. But then for me, it's like, well, who am I? You know, I'm a potent combination of everyone I've ever met, everything I've ever read, and everywhere I've ever been. But who am I really? What am I really? And I don't know the answer to that, which is actually quite unnerving. I don't know. That's the question. Who am I? What am I? And I really hate to say it, but this might just be one of those things where we have to stumble around at night in a dark neighborhood until we find our house, stumble around in our house until we find our bedroom, stumble around the bedroom until we find our bed, and only then, when we found our sheets and our mattress and we're laying in bed, can we find peace. And that's something that's not comfortable with me. It doesn't sit right. I hate the fact that I wouldn't say I'm an opinionated person. I think there are very few things that I have a strong opinion on. But one of them, I think, is human nature. I have so many problems with human nature. I hate the fact that we have to have this grass is always greener on the other side sort of thing, or that we have to fall before we can rise. I hate that, you know. For example, Isaac Newton's quote, which actually isn't by Isaac Newton, by the way. Fun fact. If I've seen Father, it is because I stand on the shoulders of giants. Like, that to me epitomizes what progress or what evolution is. Right? Like, we should only be getting better. But at the same time, I look around and I find myself... let me rephrase that. I feel like I've got to stumble around in the dark without light until... oh, God, this is very hard to articulate in my mind. What I'm trying to get at is I'm not happy with the fact that there's no guarantee I'll even find myself in this journey to find myself. It's not... I don't want it to be easy by any means, but it's hard because I just want to stop people pleasing. But of course, nothing worthy is ever easy, I suppose. But damn it, it seems so straightforward. Just like telling yourself to go out and speak slower, and go out and not necessarily try and make people like you. It sounds so simple, but the reality behind that, the psychology behind that, is you have to do a lot of deep work in here before you can show it out there. And I don't like that. I mean, it makes sense, and I'm not bitter, I'm not complaining, but I don't like it. But yeah, there you go. So I suppose, in reflection of all that, the way I can stop people pleasing is I can either lean a little bit on the inner narcissist and just inflate my own self-worth just a little bit to the point that I don't need other people to give me the validation I need. And two, just keep stumbling around life until I find out who I am. Which is, again, not a very comforting idea, because I'm worried that that idealistic version of me that I have in my head is forever elusive. I'll never be able to catch him. Which again is good, because maybe it means I'm always moving forward. But, and this is something I know some really great people struggle with, is that once you've attained the goals that once upon a time you said would make you happy, you still want more. And I really don't like that. I really just want to reach my goals and be happy. I don't want to have to keep wanting more because I won't ever be satisfied, you know? And that's probably a mind shift to talk about at some point, but I'm not at all qualified to talk about that either. That is so far away from me. But yeah, I don't know, I guess that's my self-reflection on how to stop people pleasing from the root fundamental level. But again, yeah, more questions than answers, I think. A very unsatisfying topic, unfortunately. Yes. Well, that'll be it for now. I hope there was some value in that. There was, of course, to me, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it. It's always good to self-reflect, and I feel like I do it better in front of I do it better talking as opposed to writing it down sometimes. But yeah. But anyways, take care, no matter where you are in the world. Have an absolutely wonderful day, night, evening, morning, midnight, whatever it might be, I don't know. But yeah. Cheers, guys. Take care.